Hey there, folks. Greg Shepard here, S&A Financial Services. I specialize in helping folks in higher education get the most out of that oftentimes confusing higher ed retirement plan. Okay, today, in-service transfers. Okay, now I've done videos on this before, but I want to expand. I've told you in the past when I run across scenarios that I think you all could benefit from. I'm going to share it with you. So that just happened. It's happened twice, 2.5 times, maybe 3 times in the last month or so. So I'll piggyback off that right now. And by the way, I'm dressed like this because it's 60 degrees in the Midwest in Kansas City. I'm getting you know what out of here to go play golf after this. Okay, I can't apologize for that. When it's 60 degrees in Kansas City in December, you have to take advantage of it. I know y'all don't care about that. Let's get going here. So the simplest scenario, the easiest, I've talked about this before. So this individual contacted me. Very simply put, his employer did not have good choices. Now, let me back up a little bit. In-service transfer, what this is, very simple. Most institutions, this is plan specific, the plan documents will govern, will dictate if you can do this or not. Typically, like in this case, you have to reach a minimum age threshold, which is 59.5. That's very typical. I have seen it where it's higher than that. So make sure you contact your vendor to make sure that you can even do this strategy. Also, I've never seen it where it's been allowed in those mandatory accounts where the employer's pumping money into it. Typically, it's synonymous with the employee voluntary accounts. Okay, so keep that in mind. Okay, so this individual's institution, higher ed institution, the investment choices were trash. I mean, that's the only way to put it. Okay, they just weren't good. So what we did is he's over 59.5. He's an aggressive investor. We finagled his current account. What I mean by that is he had bond choices. This is at TIAA, had bond choices. What we did is in his liquid contract, okay, that's the money we're rolling over, we dumped money into TIAA Traditional that he had in bonds. So in lieu of bonds, December of 2023, TIAA Traditional liquid contracts, very good rates. So we took advantage of that. Anything on the equity side, we transferred it over to, in my case, Charles Schwab's rollover IRA. You can do this with any vendor, Fidelity, Vanguard, just keep going down the list, okay? I just use Charles Schwab for my clients. We also implemented TIAA Traditional somewhat on the illiquid contract as well with an exit strategy. Make sure you know what that means before you get into TIAA Traditional in the illiquid contract. So this scenario, bad investment choices. He's over the age threshold, rather aggressive investor, like an 80-20. Flip those equity stuff over to Charles Schwab. We can basically invest in anything we want over at Charles Schwab, okay? So far, so good. Next scenario, this person, you know, as a fiduciary, I always tell folks, we're gonna do what's in the best interest of my clients, or I guess in this case, a prospect, if you will. What I mean by that is this person, I told this lady, you don't need to become a client, okay? So let me expand and tell you why I told this lady. She's still going to contact me, and I'll still help her out every now and again. Conservative investor, okay? She watched my videos, listened to my podcast, wanted to work with me. Great. She knew about this in-service transfer rule already. So I looked her situation over. Again, conservative investor, wanted to take that money over to a rollover IRA so I could help her out. I told her, hey, here's, you know, if I were you, this is the plan I would implement. You're a conservative investor, TIAA Traditionals have exceedingly high rates right now. I can't get you something like TIAA Traditional over Charles Schwab, okay? It just doesn't exist. So what we're going to do is take, instead of the in-service transfer, we're going to take monies that you have in your ex-contract, your ex-employers. We're going to do some 120-day reinvestment rule. We're going to load up in TIAA Traditional in your liquid contracts, and then implement a different strategy for your RA contracts. We are probably going to roll some money over from her RA contracts eventually, but nonetheless, she was a candidate that didn't necessarily need to implement that in-service rollover transfer because conservative investor over at TIAA, I said, hey, take advantage of TIAA Traditional, forget the in-service transfer for now. Her choices were actually decent, and I helped her allocate it a little bit. And she went about her merry way. She'll probably become a client later on down the road when she really needs it. But don't be fooled. Not everybody in my industry will do something like that. Okay, you don't necessarily have to transfer that money out. Something else that not necessarily in-service transfer, this kind of popped in my head. I dealt with another individual where Fidelity and TIAA were the vendors. Okay, this is very common. Now, more times than not, 100% of the times I've run into. I'm not saying that's guaranteed for every institution, but I've never run across it where you're not able to use TIAA and Fidelity in combination, in conjunction with one another, if you have both those vendors, obviously. A lot of money were at Fidelity. This individual wanted to work with me and roll those monies out. So same deal, in-service transfer deal. 62 years old, I believe, somewhere around there. And I said, hey, let's take a look at this. You got Fidelity and TIAA to choose from. Again, I can't, for that conservative money, I can't get you that TIAA Traditional over at Charles Schwab. I can't get you something like that, okay? So what we're going to do is take the bond, the more conservative investments from Fidelity, kick those over to TIA, liquid, throw it into TIAA Traditional, realize the exceedingly high rate that TIAA Traditional's receiving right now, getting you in the liquid contract, and everything else in that liquid contract at Fidelity, we're going to roll it over to an IRA, okay? So again, usually when I run across scenarios that we're trying to implement strategies, the answer isn't, more times than not, how should I say this? The answer isn't necessarily 100% of the time, just exit the money out of the employer retirement plan. Usually it's a combination of, like, this one was Fidelity, TIAA, and Schwab. The other one was going from Fidelity, TIAA. Usually it's a combination of 2 or 3 different vendors, which is the web gets a little complicated. That's why you have people help you out, but that's the most financially efficient way to accomplish a lot of these, not problems, just these puzzles, okay? Regardless, in-service transfer, it is afforded to you, but it doesn't necessarily always make sense. Make sure you gather information, educate yourself. Okay, that's enough today. I'm getting out of here. I'm gonna go embarrass myself on the golf course. Greg Shepard here, S&A Financial Services. Y'all take care. All right, bye-bye.